Hey YouTube, it's Brendan, Cusack Prep, coming at you with a video on how to solve a trig identity. So what we have in this video is on the left side we have cosine squared of x, and on the right side we have cosecant of x times cosine of x divided by tangent of x plus cotangent of x. Alright, so clearly the right side's more complicated, and we always choose to work from the more complicated questions, sign in these questions. And let's think about our options here. So I don't see any trig identities. I don't see any opportunity to factor. I don't really see a separate fractions, so there's no least common denominator. There's no foiling, there's no multiplying. So I kind of go all the way down to the bottom of my list, and I think, okay, let's change everything to sine and cosine. And let's see what happens when we do that. So cosecant of x, well, I know that that is 1 over sine of x. And that's going to be times cosine of x. Tangent of x is sine of x divided by cosine of x. And cotangent of x is cosine of x over sine of x. And we're going to have to show that this is equal to cosine squared of x. Alright, so what can we do here? Well, in the top, I can go ahead and just multiply 1 over sine of x times cosine of x. And when I do that, I get cosine of x over sine of x, which is pretty straightforward, nothing too bad about that. Now, when I have fractions divided by fractions, you want to turn the parts of the fraction into a single fraction. So I know that doesn't really make a lot of sense. But if I look at the numerator, I can see that I just have one simple fraction up here. I just have cosine over sine. In the denominator, down here, I have basically two different fractions. I need to combine those into one. And the way that I do that is by getting a least common denominator. So I'm going to multiply this by sine of x over cosine of x. And I'm going to go ahead and multiply this by cosine. Oops, that's a mistake. I'm going to multiply this by cosine of x over cosine of x. Sorry about that. And I'm going to multiply this by sine of x over sine of x. Alright, so now sine of x times sine of x is going to be sine squared of x, and that's going to be over sine x cosine of x. Cosine of x times cosine of x is cosine squared of x, and that's also going to be over sine of x cosine of x. If I'm adding two fractions that have the same denominator, I just add right across the top, and I keep the denominator the same. So this becomes sine squared of x plus cosine squared of x over sine x cosine of x. Alright, now, and again, that equals cosine squared of x over on this side. So do I notice anything about this? Well, fortunately I do. I see that this right here is a trig identity. So what that means is I can turn the numerator into cosine of x over sine of x, and the denominator becomes 1 over sine x cosine of x. Well, if you remember back to Algebra 2, dividing by a fraction is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. So this right side, this cosine of x over sine of x, divided by 1 over sine x cosine of x, can be written as cosine x over sine of x times sine x cosine x over 1. I can cross simplify the sine of x's out, and I see that I just have cosine of x times cosine of x, which is cosine squared of x. Thus, I've been able to prove that my left side of my equation is equal to the right side of my equation, and we've completed the problem. Thank you so much for watching.